All right, let's talk about one of these new films that came out recently. And the first one we're going to talk about is The Book of Clarence, a fun little feature that takes a spoof on Christianity. It's quite an interesting watch, and it's very high concept comedy that I just think the real issue is pacing. And I'll get to it when I get to the directing, but the story is pretty simple. It's about Clarence, and it's a story about this character named Clarence, who is played by Lakeith Stanfield, and pretty much the whole story is about him being broke, and he needs to make money quick, and he is alive at around the same time as Jesus, and he decides to pretend that he is the Messiah as well. And then he makes a lot of money. He decides to be a good person, and then he ends up. It's pretty much the story of Jesus Christ, but everything that happened was to a completely different person. It's pretty interesting. It's an interesting tale. It is a comedy. It's got its comedic moments, but the story is really focused on the grand epic scale of it all. But yeah, the story is fairly interesting. I'll give it a hand grenade score. The cinematics were amazing, visually breathtaking, great music. Like, the music is probably one of the best parts of this film, and I think it might go underappreciated, but it was such an interesting take for a musical soundtrack for a film that it honestly deserves a watch alone on that. I'm going to give the cinematics a hand grenade score here as well. But now, as I mentioned earlier, directing is probably where this film has quite a few flaws, as it was very randomly shot. Like, there are scenes that just don't feel like they were shot by the same person. Composition's a little weird, but the real thing that the director should have kept consistency of was pacing. The pacing is horrendous, in my opinion. Like, there are moments where the movie just drags and drags and drags, and then there's a random fun little set piece, and then it's like 20 minutes of dragging on exposition, and then like 3 minutes of fun little banter, a fun little scene, and then I'm like, oh my god, that's really funny, that was really good, and then it's another 25 minutes of exposition drag, like dragging the story along, and then another like 5 minute fun sequence, and it's just so inconsistent. Like, when the movie was at its highest point at being the best it could be, it was great, but when it was at its lowest, it was the worst. And like, there were so many good jokes in the movie that we had huge laughs about, but then it was followed by like just slow paces of uninspired boredom. Like, we were bored during parts of the movie, but we were so entertained during other parts, which is why this sequence right here will get a Hot Pocket score, because it was so random. It had such high highs and such low lows. Now, the acting, on the other hand, is phenomenal. Lakeith Stanfield does a great job. The whole cast does a great job. I just really like Lakeith Stanfield in this role. He was very fun and funny to like follow, and he also kind of had a dual role, but I won't spoil the exact reasons as to why. But he definitely had one of the more charming performances. And then my favorite part is how James McAvoy and Benedict Cumberbatch are just sort of there, and they show up, and they like are great for like the few scenes that they have, but the whole main cast is phenomenal. I just don't want to look it up, but they were all great. It's a great cast, honestly. I'm going to give a hand grenade score here. And now on to expectations and experience, which I did not know what I was expecting. And my experience was pretty great, as I was like the only, like my group was the only people in the theater. So we had a blast laughing our asses off when we could. But I have to say, the pacing was just so atrocious to me that I can't rewatch it as much as I think it could be rewatched. Like, if this was maybe 20 minutes shorter, I think it could have worked as an hour and 40-minute movie. I don't think it should be considered an epic at that point, but I do think with a 20-minute shorter runtime, this movie's pacing could be fixed, and it would make it a hand grenade movie. But because of the pacing of the movie, it's a Hot Pocket movie because you will get sick of it so quickly because of the pacing. But yeah, this is a certified Hot Pocket movie. I do recommend checking it out at least once. But it's not something you're going to be rewatching consistently, in my personal opinion. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for this one. If you're still watching, leave a like, comment down below if you checked it out or not, and subscribe if you haven't already. And other than that, I'll leave you guys to it.